So I started becoming a prepper. Okay, I help people to get prepared to survive what's coming. A year's supply worth of food, radios for communications for when the power goes out, lots of batteries, lots of oil lamps, lots of candles, alternative ways to heat your home. Because from what I hear, Germans are going to be freezing to death this winter, from the sounds of it. So do you have a couple of ways to keep your house warm? I've got a kerosene heater. I'm stockpiling some kerosene. I've got an improvised wood heater. So I've got a couple of ways I can heat my little apartment this winter if the power goes down. And I recommend everybody do that. Get a kerosene heater. They're cheap relatively, and kerosene lasts a long time. You can store it, and that way you can stay warm during the winter. Okay, that. So food, medicine, another one. Make sure you have a good first aid kit. Stockpile if you must take prescription medicines, you better stockpile it, because if the power goes out, then the pharmacies aren't open because they can't, the doors don't work, the lights aren't on, they can't process payments. So, and the same thing with the hospitals. The hospitals aren't going to be of much use. So you better get your own medicine together. And if you're not on prescription medicine, then at least stockpile some medicines that you might need, like antibiotics. We've talked about this before, Judith. I think I sent you the link to where I buy my antibiotics online. And antibiotics, painkillers. I've got the usual painkillers, Tylenol and ibuprofen and acetaminophen and acetylsalic acid, but opium-based painkillers work better. Now I have 2 tablets of OxyContin that I found in my mother's medicine cabinet after she died. I don't know why she was prescribed for that, but anyway, so that's in my medical kit. It's only 2 pills. I wish I had more, but anyways, I've got lots of antibiotics. Okay, good. So there's your medical kit. The other thing you need is, did I mention radios? I think so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. That leaves firearms, a weapon. When the world collapses, often what happens is the gangs take over, the street gangs. They take over everything. You end up becoming what in China used to be called the warlord age, where they take over parts of the city. So you want to go to Chicago, but Chicago is ruled by the Red Gang, something like that. But what these gangs do is they go house to house and they loot everybody. I remember reading stories about the Bosnian War and how the guy that was the survivor of the Bosnian War wrote that anybody who didn't have a gun was robbed within a week, totally wiped out everything they had, everything that food, lighters, fuel, whatever they had. If you don't have a gun, they will rob you blind. There's nothing you can do to defend yourself, because when things collapse, you're not going to have police. There's not going to be any police. Look at now in San Francisco and Portland. There's no police. They go in there and they rob and steal and do whatever the hell they want. There's nobody to stop them. You got to stop them, you yourself, if you want to protect yourself. So, okay, good. Let's say that you've taken my advice that I've been giving for the last 15 years. Great, but that still doesn't mean you're going to survive. See, I've got all those things. I've got the medicine and the food and the radios, and I got a couple of guns. Would I like more guns? I don't care. I don't really care. A couple is enough, right? It's enough. And I got a couple of radios, and I'm smart. I'm very street smart, and I know strategy and tactics. So I'll be able to survive pretty well by myself, but not for very long. You can't survive by yourself, even if you've got all the stuff you need and all that. Let's say you're some like fanatic that has millions of dollars and you built yourself a bunker underground and Now you've got, your generators and all your food, and you're going to go in the bunker and you're going to survive there by yourself. Well, no, because what often happens is you get sick. You know, during these times when society collapses, one of the things that you see quite often is um, all kinds of sickness. The water gets contaminated. There's something in the air. There might be chemical attacks, might be biological attacks, might be nuclear attacks, or just life in general. You read these stories of people who are perfectly healthy, and then one day they wake up and they have a pain, and they're rushed to the hospital with hours left to live from some weird disease that they picked up or some weird malfunction. So if you are by yourself and you get sick, then you're dead, or you get injured. That's the other thing too, is you sprain your ankle, or you trip and you fall and you break your leg or break a hip, and there's no hospitals. Um, what are you going to do then? So you do ultimately need people. So that's how I got to the point of forming survival communities. Be a prepper. Be personally prepared. Okay, I've got my own stuff, my own guns, my own this, right?
Hmm.
But I need to be part of a community. People that will come and check in on you once a day, right? One of the things that I recommend people start when we start to form communities, and a really easy way of starting some kind of a community, and that's a check-in club. There's a lot of seniors that live alone, and nobody looks after them. Nobody goes by their house. Nobody goes by their apartment. Not, how you doing? Everything okay in there? I've seen it. The last building I lived in, we had, I think, four seniors, mostly women, and they all lived in their own apartment. They all had a little white dog. And that's in Canada, when you hit menopause, the government sends you a little white dog. And I'm kidding, but they all seem to have these little white dogs. But I know them because I would meet them in the lobby and I'd talk to them, or I'd see them walking the dog out in the backyard or out in the park, and nobody comes to their house. Nobody checks in on them. And then I remember thinking, because, well, I was living by myself too. I'm thinking, when's the last time somebody called me? A couple of weeks, couple of months. Nobody's ever come by my door. What if I had a heart attack? Right?
Hmm.
How long will it take before they find my body? Probably about a month, because after a month, you start stinking so bad the whole building can smell it. Dead bodies really stink. It's a very bad smell. So I thought, well, so there's such a thing as called a check-in club, and you just organize it among friends, among family members, among people in the community. And the only thing you do for this community is once a day, you spend 5 minutes to phone them and see how they're doing. If they pick up the phone, it's like a welfare check where you used to send the police to go and check on them. But that's something we can do ourselves. We can just give them a phone call. And in the case where I was living, I mean, if they live in the same building, they're just down the hall. Walk down the hall, knock on the door. Hi, Agatha. How are you doing today? Did you get your medicine and all that? It makes a big difference. It gives hope to the people that live by themselves, because one of the things that kills you is isolation and loneliness. It's very detrimental on your health. Being alone and not having people that care about you is one of the major causes for arthritis and dementia and heart disease. There have been numerous studies. There's quite a few TED Talks about this, how loneliness kills people. And so just having somebody call you once a day to say, hey, how are you doing? You'll live longer, you'll be happier, you'll have fewer diseases. So that's one example of how, if we form a community, and it's not even a prepper or a survival community, it's just a community that gives a phone call once a day. It's not complicated, but it's one example that has, for very little effort and organization, huge benefits for the people. It's a big benefit. So we can do that for a lot of things. For example, the grocery prices nowadays is ridiculous. I
Mm,
personally go to a food bank. Now, I went and I talked to the people that run the food bank, and I made sure they had lots of food because I said, listen, if me coming here means families are doing with less, then I'm not coming here. And they said, oh, don't worry about it. We're in a small town. Yeah, the food banks in the big city, they struggle. They struggle to
yeah,
give everybody, right?
the
She
same
says,
here.
yeah. She says, but here we're in a small town. People are very generous. She says, we have way more food than we can give away. We've got plenty of food. So don't feel bad about coming in and getting some food. But I needed to do it, mostly for the cat food. First thing I go when I go to the food bank, I said, cat food? Priorities, of course, the Poos cats. What else? But things like that are a great benefit. It's a great help. So food prices are ridiculously high. I can't believe how expensive it is. Um, I used to go to the store, spend $50, and you've got like 4 bags of groceries. Now you spend $50, barely have 1 bag of groceries.
Mhm.
So one thing that our community is doing, and that everybody should be doing this, is we have a food co-op. Now, all a food co-op is, it's what we call a buying group, which is another thing that you can do as a community, a buying group, which means you pool your money together, 2 families, 3 families, 5 families. You take the money that you would normally spend on groceries, you pool it together, and you buy your groceries in bulk from the wholesaler. So we buy in bulk. There is a food distribution center here that distributes food for all the local farmers. So it's all fresh food, it's all non-GMO, it's all free-range chickens. And the only catch is you don't need a license or a permit or a business license or anything like that, or a wholesaler's license. The only catch is that it must be a minimum order of $500. Now, obviously, me, I can't afford $500 by myself, but I get 10 people, we all put in $50. Now we buy it in bulk and they will deliver it to where you live. They send a truck there. Okay. And then you go online, you say, okay, we want 30 pounds of potatoes, we want 10 gallons of milk, we want the pork chops, we want the chickens, we want, and you buy it just like you would from a grocery store and they deliver it to you. And so now we have one of our members, she's a lovely lady, and she says that she used to spend $800 every 2 weeks on groceries. She says, I got 4 teenagers,
Mhm.
you know, and of course, mom and dad. She got 4, they eat like crazy. It costs her $800 every 2 weeks, $1,600 a month to feed her family. But since she's been part of the food co-op, she only pays $800 a month. So it's half. She saves half her money. And that's, again, that's, like you want to do everything by yourself. Okay. It's going to cost you a lot of money. You're going to have to do all the grocery shopping yourself and you'll have to pay full retail price for everything. But if we work together with other people, cooperate, very simple. There's no contracts, there's no bickering or fighting about. Everybody can order what they want. You don't want potatoes, you don't have to order potatoes. You can have squash, and they pick the order for you. They put it in boxes, and they drive it to your house. And then the rest of the people that are in your co-op come to your house. So typically, they deliver to Dixie. Dixie runs it. She's a friend of mine, and they deliver to her house. We've got like 20 people that participate in the food co-op, and then okay, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, the truck will be here. So you come, you bring your own boxes because we start to run out of boxes. And let's see, what did you order? They got the list. Okay, 20 pounds potatoes, milk, pork chops, whatever you want, fresh honey, and then, so again, by belonging to a community, you cut your food expenses in half. Not only that, you get good food. You don't get the crap from the grocery store, the highly over processed GMO sprayed with God knows how many chemicals. You don't get that. You get stuff that's grown. Oh, see there, 10 miles down the road, that's where it comes from. So you get healthy food at half the cost. Again, this is why we have to work together for survival, because your survival will depend on it. And what happens when there is a power outage and the grocery stores are closed, or the dollar collapses, or the Deutschmark collapses? Oh, you don't have a Deutschmark anymore.
The lovely euro.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the lovely euro. What happens if that collapses? You can't go to the grocery store anymore. Well, we know where all the farmers bring their food and where they sell it. So we can go there and get our food, get our groceries. And okay, other things we have in our communities. Now, our community is, like I said, it's a survivalist community, but it's set up like a mutual aid community. Now, I've been to a bunch of survival communities, like prepper communities. I don't like them. I don't like the people. I don't like the people. I don't like their communities. I don't like the way they're run. And I never wanted to be a part of it. I don't, it's, like people get this idea, and I've seen it dozens of times now, Judith, because, I've been doing this for a number of years. I offer consultations for people who want to get prepared. If you want to get prepared and you need somebody to run through everything you need and what you should have and what, I do an assessment. What do you have now? And what do you need? What do you got to get ready for? And I do the same thing, consult with other communities. And people call me all the time. Oh, I'm looking for a community. And they tell me the stories of the communities that they found, the prepper communities, right? I think Freedom Cells is one of these organizations, and I've never heard a good thing from about the Freedom Cells. So they got some guy who says, "Okay, I got 400 acres. You're welcome to come and camp in the field." Okay, so a few people go there and they set up tents or they bring their trailers, and now they're sitting there in the field. There's no water, there's no electricity, no toilets. Okay, and then the farmer comes out and he says, "Okay, well, today you guys go over there and you fix the fence, and you guys over there, I need you to dig another." And he becomes like this dictator, like a cult leader. He's telling people that they got to go work there, to go work there. It was the same with that guy in North Carolina, Eustace Conway, who was on that TV show Mountain Men. Yeah, he's got 400 acres in North Carolina, and he's telling people, "Come here, we're going to be a prepper community." And so a few people went there, and it was the same thing. He had them working, renovating apartments, and then he would turn them into Airbnbs. And these were old women. They were women in their 50s and 60s. And one of the old women sawed half her hand off on the table saw, working to, renovate an apartment. Look, renovating junk apartments, this is man's work, okay? It's tough, it's dirty, and you need to have a really good knowledge of tools and equipment. You can't just invite some 65-year-old retiree woman and tell her, "Here, go cut this lumber on the saw." That's the kind of interest you're going to have. And it's like a cult, and so none of that works. So this everybody buying a piece of property never works. So our community is based on a mutual aid model, which means you still live in your own house, right? You have your own apartment. We don't live together.
Hmm.
I don't want to live with anybody. I like being
Yeah,
alone,
I
right?
understand. I totally understand. Yeah.
Because it'll be endless bickering, and then people are going to be stealing things, and who stole my, and then accusations and infighting, and no, it never works. But The only difference is we come together to support each other. So I live in my own place and everybody else does too, but we come together to buy groceries wholesale. Okay, good. The other thing is we have homeschooling team. So the parents here, we're getting really tired of having drag queen story time in their
Mhm.
in their kids' school. So they don't want to do it anymore. We had one young girl commit suicide just down the street from here at the railway crossing, 15 years old. She walked in front of a train, and what a way to kill yourself. But turns out she was confused about her gender. She
Mhm.
thought she was a boy, and she started dressing like a boy. And well, come on, you're 15 years old. I remember being 15. The hormones are raging, and you're not an adult yet. You don't know who you are or what you want to be, and then there's all this pressure on you to fit in and belong. And well, I blame the school system for her suicide. I do, because they've
Mhm.
been promoting all this transgender garbage in the school. They promote it, and then you get all these young girls that mostly young girls that get all confused about their sexual identity, and then they get a lot of positive attention if they tell people, "Oh, I'm trans now." Oh, well, good for you, and the teacher likes you, and the principal likes you, and the student and guidance counselor. Suddenly, you're a hero if you could tell everybody you're transgender. So who wouldn't want to be transgender if you're a mixed up, confused teenage girl? But it has an effect on people. And she was so depressed, she killed herself. And our community, to its credit, organized a meeting. It was at the local grocery store, which had a second level that was like a big hall with a kitchen in there. They used it to teach cooking classes, right? And we talked to the grocery store. We need to use your auditorium. They said sure, and we sent out invitations to all the parents at the school because all the kids and our friends and all that, they were all traumatized. And we had a big meeting. We invited three guest speakers, two pastors that were experts on suicide, who had experienced family members that committed suicide. So they gave a talk, and we worked together, try to find some answers, and try to give people some comfort. And this is what we can do as a community. Okay, we can support each other that way. So we have what we call teams. So we have about 80 to 100 people in our community, and we formed them into different teams. So we got nutrition team. Now, part of the nutrition team is we grow our own vegetables.
Mhm.
Um, two. Now, and the benefit is we are also out in the rural country. All right. So many of our members have like farmhouses. They're not actually working farms. They probably were 80 years ago working farm, but now it's just a farmhouse. They live there. They work in the city, but they have a lot of property, lots of farmland. So it's nothing to take a quarter acre and devote it to our community. Everybody gets together and works on the garden. We till the soil, we plant the seeds, we water it, we weed it. Everybody volunteers. I was talking to Freeman Fly. He's a YouTuber, and he says, "Oh, I'm no good at gardens. I've tried now for 2 years. I can't grow anything." I said, "Well, how many people you've got helping you?" And he says, "No, it's just me." I said, "Well, of course, that's why you can't get anywhere." I said, "We have 20 people that routinely volunteer to work on the garden. And out of that 20 people, 10 are farmers and 5 are horticulturalists. They know what to do. They've got the expertise. So now when you work together, you have your buddy who's a farmer come over and take a look, and he'll tell you right away, no, that you got to aerate that soil more. No, you can't plant those crops here because it's too close to the trees and they don't get enough sun. And you got to separate these crops because they will grow up and they will strangle that crop. and you got to feed it this, don't, this type of compost, and you have to water this more than that. And so they tell you, they know, they're farmers and they're gardeners. So the nutrition team works on our communal gardens. We don't pay anything for it, right? The people that donate their land, they don't charge any money for it. So it's all free, okay? Other than you put in 2 hours a week. That's it. 2 hours a week. Who can come on Saturday? Because we'll bring this up at the meeting, right? We have a weekly meeting, and then the nourishment team will say, listen, it's been pretty dry this week. We need somebody to come out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to water the garden. Who can come out Friday? 5 people volunteer. Who can come out Saturday? And that's how things get done. So the garden produces a ton of food. We got the food co-op, but we also get free food. Imagine that, free food, tons of it. The nourishment team also works with individual group members to help them in their backyard garden. Dixie is a genius. Her backyard garden, it's quite small. It's only like 40 by 30 feet. It's nothing. 10 by 15 meters. Yeah. And the the vegetables and the plants and fruit trees, and it's like 10 feet high. It's like a forest. It's like a jungle in there. She produces a lot of foods. Now, okay, we need to source our own nutrition. We got the buying group. We've got the communal garden, and we've got at least half of the members that own homes that have backyard gardens, but also some of them live in apartments, and Dixie will go over there and show them what they can grow on the balcony. There's even stuff you can grow in the wintertime under your sink. Mostly seedlings, right? But I like seeding. I like sprouts in my Chinese food, right? So now we've got 3 different independent sources of food. We also buy chickens en masse from the local farmer because, here we're in a rural area. A lot of the members know the local farmers. Dixie knows the farmers. So 2 or 3 times a year, we'll put in an order for 100 chickens. And she'll call up the farmer. We'd like to order 100 chickens. And you'll say, yeah, okay, it'll take about 3 months for them to hatch and, and grow into adulthood. And they're all free range chickens, no antibiotics, no hormones, And the chickens are a lot less than you pay in the grocery store. And so people order 100 chickens at a time. And then the members will order. You put in your own order. How many do you want? I only want 1 chicken. You want 10 chickens. You want 15 chickens. And then they'll take them home, put them in the freezer. We do the same thing with whole milk, which is illegal. Oh, you're not allowed to drink whole milk. I had whole milk for the first time about 3 months ago. Wow, that's good stuff. It's almost like a cream, it's very tasty, and it's very healthy, and it's illegal. So we buy it from the Amish, and we have a system. We'll call up the Amish farmer and we'll say, we want 2 gallons of whole milk. He puts it in the barn. We drive up there, we go in the barn, we pick it up, we leave some money in the jar in the barn, right? So he's not selling it to us hand to hand because we gotta be careful. What if the government found out? So whole milk, honey. We've got a lot of beekeepers in the area. We buy our honey directly from the beekeepers. So that's nutrition team, takes care of all of that, So now you're self-sufficient. So even though, yeah, okay, Stefan's okay. I got almost a year's supply of food, maybe more, maybe less. I have to figure it out. I'm doing an inventory soon. After 1 year, then what happens? Then what happens, right? After 1 year, and then don't think it won't last more than 1 year, because I was reading blogs by people that were in Venezuela, And one of the guys says, yeah, we had preppers here. You know, they had a year's supply of food stockpiled. A couple even had 2 years supply of food. But that economic depression went on for 7 years,
Yeah.
and they're still not out of it. So how are you going to maintain this? Okay, 1 year is good. You don't have to worry too much, but how are you going to feed yourself after 1 year? He also said that there were people out in the country, you know, that they got a farm out there and they're doing their uh, off-grid living and growing their own food. He said they were the first ones to be attacked and looted by the gangs. But you think the downtown street gangs don't know farmers have food? Of course they know. They all get in a truck, they come up here and they rob you blind.
Yeah. I have a question. If
Yeah.
let's say that piece of land, the garden where you your community plants food, do you have any provisions in terms of, let's say, society collapses, and as you just said, people all over the place are, of course, looking for food, and there's hardly anything they wouldn't do, you know, for water and food. So do
Sure.
you have provisions in terms of safety, security features
Yes, we do.
for that case?
Yeah, we have that. So another one of the teams that we have is a security team.
Hmm.
Now you can start this off. I tell people that are interested in forming their own groups, I said, well, do something easy and simple like a neighborhood watch. Okay. So neighborhood watch is simply civilians that probably are nosy, but uh, you know, but here where I sit, right in front of me is a window, and that window overlooks the entire apartment complex and the fields. I can see everybody's house, everybody's balcony. I can see the street. If anybody comes from around trying to steal cars or break into houses, I'll be the first one to see because I sit here all day. I'm in front of the computer all day, and then I look out the window. Huh? Who are those guys? Um, so a neighborhood watch is a good way to start for your own security. And what it does is you get to know the local police department too, because you go to your local police department and you say, look, we want to start a neighborhood watch. Keep an eye out for crime. And look, crime is going to go through the roof. So you should have a neighborhood watch anyways. And what the police department do, they typically have somebody in the department that will teach you. They will run a little workshop, you know, a 2 hour course, a 3 hour course. You go to the police station, or maybe it's at the local library, and they will teach you what to do when you see crime, who to call, and how to alert people. And typically we have radios, you know, so that you can radio your neighbors. Hey, Bob, there's somebody at your back door, you know. So a neighborhood watch community is a good way to start. Now, our security team is a little bit more robust than that because we all have firearms. You know, thank God we can still buy guns here in Canada. Can't use it for self-defense. Oh God, no. But if it's shit hits the fan, then we're not going to care about the local regulations about self-defense. So we have, and the people that are on the security team are like myself. I got, you know, been a martial arts instructor for many years, and you know, I know strategy and tactics from my first book. I'm a good tactician, and I got my street smarts, and I got my guns, and I got my radios. So there's me, and then there's a couple of other guys that are ex-military and ex-police officers. So we have this plan to form a quick response team. So what that is, if one of the local farmers, right? Because again, everybody's spread out. Our community is spread out across 30 miles, 15 different tiny towns, little towns, and about half of them live in farmhouses. They're isolated. And so during a shit hits the fan, they're vulnerable, right?
Mm.
So we've got radios, and that's another team. We've got the communications team. So we've got radio. So if the phone goes down and power goes out, doesn't matter. If the looters start coming up, and then again, like I said, it's a little bit neighborhood watch. We've got people that live close to or can see the highway and the major roads into town. So, to keep an eye out. They see a bunch of trucks, a bunch of pickup trucks pulling into town. They'll get on the radio, they'll warn everybody. Then everybody now is looking out their window, keeping an eye out. Who the hell are these guys? What are they doing? And then if we see them going to loot a house that's one of our members, then we send a quick response team, which is about 4 of us, uh, two trucks, 2 guys and 2 trucks each, and we're all armed, and we'll send them out there. Now, luckily, as we've seen with the riots in South Africa and other places, looters aren't really organized military units, and so if they get any resistance, they tend to split up and run. So
Mhm.
with Dixie's house, she's just 3 blocks away from me, just down the road. So if I get a call from her husband on the radio saying there's guys trying to kick in their front door, well, I'm there in 5 minutes, and I'll be coming up behind them. Now, her husband has guns, so he'll be shooting from inside the house. But and if they're still persistent, which I doubt they would be, usually you just shoot a couple of bullets in the air and they'll run because they're not going to risk their life to rob you.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
let's say they're really consistent, they're really persistent, they're still banging on the door even though he's firing some rounds through the door. What a surprise and shock it'll be when I come up behind him with my shotgun. Now they're getting fire from 2 directions. They're not a military unit. They don't know how to deal with multiple fields of fire. They're going to panic and run, and they'll go down the street where nobody has a gun and there's nobody backing them up. So that is our plan. It's not the best plan. Um, would I like an armored vehicle and, and machine guns and 30 guys? Yeah, I would, but I can't have that. But I can have 4 guys with shotguns and pistols and hunting rifles, and we can get in a van, get in a truck, and we can go to whoever is in trouble. So that's basically our plan for that. Also, we maintain absolute secrecy. Our community, we don't do anything on the internet. We don't have a
Mhm.
Facebook page. Um,
Yeah, absolute.
so nobody knows we exist. I could tell you the name. You can Google it. You won't find anything about us because we're not on the internet. So again, this is what I tell people. I tell them in the course and in my book. Yes, form a community. You can do a neighborhood watch. Okay. All right. People will know you're a neighborhood watch. You're a benevolent group. You work with the police. But that same neighborhood watch could also make sure they keep firearms in the house. And they can also make sure that when they get the call, they grab their gun, they grab the radio, they grab their first aid kit so they can attend to any potential injuries. They get in the truck, we all go there, and we put up a defense and scare the shit out of the looters. Is basically what we'll do. And it's the same thing with the gardens. People, you know, these gardens are set up away from public view. Right now, I remember when I was living in Toronto, they had communal gardens there. Hyde Park is a beautiful park. Downtown Toronto, it's like Central Park in New York, but even more beautiful. And people would have communal gardens down there. Everybody knows about those communal gardens. It would be
Yeah.
impossible. You can't put on a 24-hour guard to watch them. And, they get raided. People go in there at night. Oh, they got a fence and it's locked. Okay, but they just jump over the fence and a lot of times they just go through. Their teenagers or whatever. They go through and they just tear it apart for no good reason. They don't even steal the food. They just stomp the garden into the dirt. So you can't protect that. There's no way to protect that. So our gardens are off the beaten path. They're on private citizens' property, away from the road. And again, we maintain secrecy. So is it possible they find our garden? It is possible. But because the garden is on the property of one of our members, if that member sees people coming in to raid the garden, he's on the radio, and there we go. Four of us, probably more. We've got we've got about 8 guys, and some of these guys are really hardcore ex-military, and so we got 8 guys there with guns in about 10 minutes. The best we can do, Judith. All right, but better than nothing. And again, if you were doing all this by yourself, you have no chance. You have no chance.
No.
So I'm a prepper now. I'm going to tend my little garden, and hopefully I'll have food for next year. And then I go home, and I'm tired, so I go to sleep. And somebody comes by and steals it. I can't guard it. And if I do see people coming to rob my garden, it's just me. Yeah, probably. If you got guns, you could still chase them away, but you got to be able to see them coming too, right? So if you're busy working, doing the dishes or something, you spend half an hour cleaning the house. That's enough time for somebody to completely empty your garden. That's why you need people. You can't do it by yourself. You can't survive this. So that's our nourishment team, and that's our security team. We also have, like I said, a communications team. Everybody in the community has a ham radio, and several members, and just about everybody has their ham radio license. And several members have base stations with 40-foot tower, 25 or 50-watt transmitters, and we had the gentleman in at one of the meetings to give a presentation who runs the repeaters. Now, repeaters are like, they're antennas amplifiers. So what they do is they can, I can reach the repeater with my little 5-watt walkie-talkie, okay? And the repeater will take that frequency, they'll amplify it, and then broadcast it out. And so using these repeaters and the base stations, but you don't even need a base station, but it's better if you have one. You can talk to people all over the world. If I wanted to talk to people in Germany, I could do that. Just with my little radio. Go through the repeater, and it will send that signal, and it'll bounce around, and it'll get all the way to Germany. So that's our communications team. So if the power goes out, and no cell phone, no internet, no computer, no, how are you going to find out anything? If you're in trouble, how will you call for help? Let's say you broke your leg while walking through the back 40, and who's going to come and help you? Who's going to come and help you? Which brings us to our next team, which is our medical team. Now, I'm part of the medical team because I used to be instructor for St. John Ambulance. So I have trained everybody in the community in emergency first aid, number one. And we also have 4 nurses. We have 3 first responders, former firemen, former paramedic, and we have 1 Chinese medicine doctor. So now we've got like 10 people, oh, and 2 herbalists. So now we've got 10, 12 people that all have medical knowledge of some kind, are all trained in first aid. And what we've done is we did some fundraising, and we put together 3 trauma kits, big first aid kits with everything, suture kits and IV and antibiotics and lots of bandages and burn dressings. And these are big kits, first aid kits, and not the little dinky first aid kit you buy at the drugstore. These are heavy duty stuff, and we store them in 3 different locations across the county at different members' homes. So Dixie has one. So now, if you get injured and no hospital, no doctor's clinic, you get injured, well, make your way to Dixie's house. Dixie's one of the herbalists. I'm one of the first responders, and I can be there in 5 minutes, get all the medical equipment we need to take care of, like 90% of the kind of injuries you might come across. Now, we don't have a surgeon. We're looking
Yeah.
into finding one. Yeah, looking into finding one. We're asking around our doctor friends and things like that, try to find a surgeon. The other day, one of the herbalists in our medical team treated a very nasty injury. A young boy was playing on his motocross motorcycle, and the wheel turned suddenly and caught his arm and dragged his arm up under the fender, and it took a big piece of his arm, from the huh? Oh, from the from the wrist, a giant
Yeah.
piece of skin off, big flap, right?
Mhm.
Those are ugly injuries, right? But his mother did not want to bring him to the hospital because in order to get medical treatment, you first have to get that what,
Yeah. Mhm.
right? They won't treat you. First,
Yeah. Yeah.
they're gonna stick you with something. Then they'll treat you. And she is really against the Kool-Aid. She doesn't
Mhm.
want, because another one of our members, really tragic, very nice guy. His son died, sudden heart attack in his sleep. He was
Mhm.
28 years old, in great shape. The only difference was, in order to start his new job, the boss forced him to get the injection. A week later, he was dead in his bed.
Mhm.
So, no, this is serious. Don't get it. You know, does it kill everybody right away? Not necessarily, but it took out this guy's son. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how sad it is to see him come to the meetings. Him and his wife. His only son is dead, and he knows why he's dead, because
Mhm.
for months he kept calling the hospital. Do you have an autopsy? Do you have an autopsy? Do you know the cause of death? And no, 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 no. We don't have anything yet. Finally, he went to one of the doctors. She says, "Is this caused by what I think it's caused?" And that doctor said, "Yeah, probably." So there you go. Even the
Mhm.
doctors know this stuff, okay, but no, they don't want to lose
Yeah,
their
but
job
they,
either.
for the most part, they still play along.
They still,
And I, just the other day, I read an article that from June to November this year, 46 footballers, European football, yeah, not
yeah,
died.
yeah.
Yeah. And a huge chunk of them from cardiac arrest. Others stroked, yeah, which is absolutely phenomenal because usually, uh, athletes at that age are not really stroke patients.
No, no, exactly. Yeah. And cardiitis, cardiomyitis.
Yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't happen to 20-year-old athletes.
no. And it
So
also
that's
doesn't 14-year-old, 14-year-old.
oh,
Yeah.
even yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So anyways, so the mother took her son to one of our team members, and she patched him up and everything like that. Okay, great. She said, well, might need stitches, but she doesn't want to do stitches, so she's just gonna. There's other ways of doing it. That there's a butterfly bandages and things like that. So she fixed him up. That's the point of the medical team, is that if you have an injury and there's nowhere else you can go, come to us. We'll help you. We'll fix it as best we can. We're not surgeons. Another one of the family members of one of our community members, um, stage 4 prostate cancer. Oh, okay, all right. He's dead. So they had him all kinds of drugs, and the same young lady uh, said, "Okay, we've tried everything. Now try this. It's an herbal remedy." 3 months later, he was completely clear of cancer. it's anecdotal. I don't know that they misdiagnose him. I think oftentimes they misdiagnose the stage 4 bullshit just to scare everybody. But anyways, he was healthy. He was healthy from that. And we you know, Judith, you've been around a long time. There are numerous treatments for cancer
Oh
that
yeah.
you that you will never see in a medical institution. You'll never get them from a hospital. They'll just poison you, poison you, poison you, and then you die and go, well, it was cancer. So there are numerous types of treatments. Do they all work? I don't know. But if I was dying, I'd be willing to take some herbal tea. Yeah, I would. I'd be willing to change my diet a little bit, you know. Or do you want to go get an operation and have them remove your leg or something like that? Um, so that's our medical team. So that's why I'm saying, as I've said before, and that's how I arrived here, Judith, right? Because I'm looking at, okay, let's play this out. Society collapses. Um, we don't have hospitals, we don't have grocery stores, we don't have the police department, we don't have internet or electricity, we don't have heating, and we don't have gasoline for the cars anymore. How are you going to live? Well, me all by myself. Okay, probably I'll be okay for 3 months or something like that until I get sick and die. But seriously, and then for people that got families, you know, the woman, the lovely lady there with our um, nutrition medical team, she's got 4 teenage kids, you know. So how are you going to look after them, right? She's also, by the way, part of the homeschooling team. They all teach their own kids. They've got 5 families that work together, and you know, I see the comments. I saw a comment the other day on Facebook. Most people don't know what it's about, but saying, "Oh, thank you, Dixie, so much for coming over and looking after my kids, letting me have a day off." So, you know, if the mom's getting run off her legs and she's tired and got a headache and the kids are going crazy, and when you got like 4 teenagers, it can get wild. And so one of the other members of the homeschooling team said, "Well, listen, I'm going to come over there. You go out, have dinner with your husband and relax, go to the spa. We'll take care of things. We'll look after the kids. And you can trust them. You know, these are people you know, you can trust." So this is, you know, why this is how I ended up here. What would I do now? Where am I going to get food from? Where am I going to get medications from? Where am I going to get, how am I going to communicate? How can I call for help? How can I get transportation? So I went through it stage by stage by stage, step by step by step. Where can I do this? How can I do this? And again, it all depends on being part of a community. And that's why I've been working on a book called The Complete Guide to Forming Communities. I have an online course, a learning course, a lecture course. It was, I think it still is, it's online at the University of Reason, which is an enterprise um, founded by Richard Grove, who also does Tragedy and Hope. You know Richard Grove? You might have had him on your show.
No, but the tragedy and hope, that tells me something. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was selling on his University of Reason platform for $400, and they sold a lot of. I couldn't believe. I said, "That's too much money to charge." No, no. Richard charges 5,000 for a course. 400 is nothing. And I said, "Oh, okay." And I've heard that from other people too. I don't know what things cost anymore, Judith. You know, I think $100 is a lot of money. And then I go to the grocery store and I realize $100 is not a lot of money. You know,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
so I put together this course. It's 12 lectures, 12 lessons, and it covers everything we talked about and so much more. It covers the check-in club, you know, it covers the food co-op, it covers the communal gardening, it covers homeschooling, it covers you know, your security team, it covers your medical team. It tells you how to organize all of this stuff and how to run it. And because that is the final solution. Oh, I better not say that. That's
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I'm teasing you. I love the German people. I could tell lots of stories about how much fun I had in Germany.
Yeah.
Um, Hofbrauhaus.
Ja. Hofbräuhaus, ja, wunderbar.
Yeah.
So what I find, we have a lot of, yeah, let's say apocalyptic movies like Mad Max and what have you,
Yes.
or Waterworld and blah blah blah. But what they never tell you and what they never explain in those movies, they are all running around in these freaky cars, but nobody explains where the gasoline comes from. There is certainly, no refinery
Yeah.
working in
Yeah.
that scenario. Nobody explains where the electricity is coming from, and on it goes. All those movies are so unrealistic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I like watching them. They're kind of fun and entertaining kind of way. It's like The Walking Dead, and that's where a lot of people get their survival information. And I gotta say, nothing these people do in any of these movies will allow them to survive. Everything they do is so stupid. They will get themselves killed, in these apocalyptic movies. Yeah. Where's the gasoline? Gasoline, you can store it for maybe 8 months to a year, maybe. You have to give it some treatment, but after a year, you're not going to find gasoline anywhere. You have to
Yeah.
refill it. Diesel lasts a little bit longer. I recommend people move to propane. You can, get propane will last indefinitely, 7 years. And you can use it to run your generator. You can use it to run your stove. You can use it to heat your home, and you can use it to run a car. You have to make some adjustments. If you have to be smart. And I have all those books in my survival library. That's another thing. If you go to my website, I have a survival library. All my books plus 320 books, all about survival, but all the different aspects of survival, just what we talked about. So there are books that will show you how to convert your car to a wood gas system. You can run your car on wood. They used to do that in the Second World War. You still see some of these old pictures. You have to have a big tank on the top of the roof of your car, right? And there's a bunch of hoses come off of it, and it's not very pretty. But if you need to run a tractor to plow your field and there's no gas, then go for the wood alcohol. And so there's books on how to convert your car to wood alcohol. That's included, and how to convert your car to diesel, and how to convert. I mean, and with diesel, you can run diesel on cooking oil, right?
Yeah, sure.
And also you can, but propane is probably the best way to go. It's very clean, and so I recommend people stockpile propane, but actually stockpile all of it. I have propane. Excuse me. I have propane for my stoves,
Mm.
and I have kerosene for my heaters, and I have alcohol for my stoves. So I have three different ways to cook food, and then I can still, build a fire on the balcony if I had to. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a creek behind me, lots of woods, and I can go and get
Mm.
the wood and make a little fire, or put it in a hobo stove on the balcony, and
Yeah.
or put a hobo stove in the living room. Just set it on a couple of bricks, and it'll heat the house.
Mhm.
So I've got four ways to heat the house. So I
Yeah.
recommend people, you stockpile a little bit of everything: propane, uh,
Yeah.
kerosene.
So let's say that from what I hear, you are living in a more rural environment.
Yes,
And
it's rural.
yeah,
You know what we
so
have a lot here? Amish and Mennonites.
yeah, that's good.
And so we get the cart and buggy,
Mm-hmm.
up and down the street every day. You hear a cart and buggy. And boy, do they know how to grow food, right? And they don't rely on technology to grow food.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
When
And
shit hits,
so, so what would you say? What would you recommend if somebody cannot find anybody where he or she is living that is yeah, even willing to think it through? And that
well,
maybe you are surrounded by people that think that is never going to happen.
mhm. I hear that a lot. I get that question very often. I get emails all the time from people. Stefan, I heard you talking about communities, and we bought your course when it was out there, and we can't find people to work together. It's tragic. Listen, I understand it's very difficult, but that's why I tell people, listen, we start small, and so if people don't think it's going to be the end of the world or anything, all right, fine. How about we start a food co-op? Now, it doesn't have to involve the end of the world. It's simply, would you like to cut your grocery bill in half? Would you like to pay half for your grocery bill? Who nowadays is making so much money they can afford the groceries without having to squint a little bit, right? Everybody can use an opportunity, you know, right now, right today. If I can offer you a way to have your expenses on groceries, wouldn't you take it? Okay, well, this is all we have to do. You and five other people, 10 people. You need 10 people. Well, five people. Okay, five people. How much do you spend a week on groceries? At least $100, right? So, okay, well, take that $100, five people, that's your $500 order. We order it from the food distribution network, from the farmers. And now, instead of, 1 week's worth of food for $100, you've got 2 weeks worth of food for $100. So you've cut your expenses in half. Start
Mhm.
that way. All right. You don't have to convince people about how evil the government is or explain to them the central banking system and, you know, the end of the world scenario. And I tell people, don't do that. You're just going to scare people. Okay. They're going to get scared. And then, oh, you're crazy conspiracy, tinfoil hat wearing. Oh, so don't start that way. Start by saying, listen, we can save a lot of money. All we got to do is buy the food together online, you know, once every 2 weeks or once every week, however, how often you want, right? And just put in $100, and then your expenses are cut in half. Start that way, and then what happens is, you see, I believe in what Sun Tzu wrote, and that is, if you throw your men into a situation where they have to fight to survive, they will fight like tigers. So, okay, now we got a loose group of people. We get together 2 times a month. Let's go pick up the groceries. Okay, great. And you meet them. Now, if everything collapses, those are the people that will be on your side because
Mhm.
you've already worked together. So then you could say, listen, okay, society's collapsed. Um, Maybe we better be careful and put together a security team. So again, don't go for the security team, right? They think you're going to start a militia. They're going to get all nervous. But no one can deny that crime is going crazy. Even in this little small town, crime is going up. It's going up everywhere. Uh, yes, we've got our junkies that sleep in the ravine, less than a half a mile from where I live, and they have to steal. And so, how about put together a community watch group? Again, you don't have to tell people it's the end of the world or anything like that. You just tell them, geez, have you noticed an increase in crime? Yeah. Well, here's something we can do to protect each other. We'll work with the police and things like that. And then when the shit really hits the fan, you already know these people. You already worked with them. They're already on board. So now they're thrown into a fight or die scenario anyways. The key point is to establish trust before it happens. Before it happens, to have a list of say 10 people. Let's say I get 5 couples and their grandparents or whatever, um, that you already know and you work with and you cooperate with. It's important that you build the trust now, because once everything is done, right now, everybody's freaking out. They're starving. They're being robbed and looted, and they have no communication, so they're panicking. They're paranoid. Trying to form a group like that, everybody's going to be too paranoid, too mistrustful.
Yeah. And so, in other words, you take baby steps. You don't make people skittish. You just start with a food co-op and build it up slowly but surely from there.
Yeah, exactly. Food co-op, check-in club, community
Mhm.
watch, um, Meals on Wheels, um, homeschooling network. Um, I even recommend people to start in the United States. They have a program that's run by the Department of Homeland Security. It's a really good program, though. It's called CERT, CERT, which stands
Mhm.
for Civilian Emergency Response Team. And this is to deal with natural disasters, not to deal with the end of the world. And they get training. There's a lot of books, and they wear a green vest and a green safety helmet, and they're taught things on how to use radios and first aid, to learn first aid and things like that. So that is a great thing to start an emergency or a disaster response team, because again, it's really simple. You ask people, listen, do you see a lot of natural disasters happening? Has there been a lot of floods? Has there been a lot of wildfires? Has there been a lot of tornadoes and hurricanes? And anybody that knows anything about the Red Cross knows that they are useless. Red Cross won't do anything during a natural disaster. And it's up to the local um, emergency response teams that really are the ones that go out there and they rescue people, and they set up medical tents, and they set up uh, soup kitchens and things like that. It's all just local people that do that. And all the cases I've read about there in the States and here in Canada, where's the Red Cross? Never mind, it's the Houston disaster response community. They do it all. So same thing here. We can do it all. Think about if you can get people interested in that. And again, you don't have to scare them with chip implants or brain implants and New World Order and all. I've seen it so many times. Say, well, I'm trying to get people together, and I've explained to them about the banksters and the chip implants and this. And I said, yeah, but very few people actually believe that stuff. Very people, and they don't want to believe it. All right, it scares people. And if you're
Yeah.
going to scare people, no, they're not going to come and work with you. But if you say, holy geez, look at that hurricane they had in the next state over, and they're absolutely devastated. Thank goodness they had a local emergency response team that could help them. I think we should do the same thing. Same thing like search and rescue, volunteer search and rescue, right? Again, it's all civilians. You coordinate it with the local police and the fire department. They're happy to help you. So now you get to know friends in the police department, friends in the fire department. Now, when shit hits the fan, your emergency response community, they're going to work together. They're trained. They got the first aid skills. We know each other. We trust each other. We're trying to do good. We're trying to save lives. That's why we're here. They'll work together to survive what's coming. So I know a lot. I know it's really hard for people to form the kind of community that, for example, we've got going here. We're really super advanced in terms of survivalism, but You don't have to jump all the way into it this way,
Mhm.
small, a little bit at a time. And for people that say they can't find anybody, I said, well, then find one other person. Start with one other person. Already that's a big help, because if I'm living alone here and I suddenly have a stroke or something, well, listen, it can happen to you at any time in your life, but once you're past 60, the odds start to increase a little bit that you might have a heart attack or a stroke. And I'm lying on the kitchen floor. Nobody's going to come by and look at me or try to get me medical help. So then you're dead. That happens a lot in Japan. You ever hear about the loneliness deaths? That all these
Mhm.
single people and they die, and nobody knows they're dead until the whole building stinks. No, you don't want that to happen. So if I have at least one other person that will phone me every day, hey Steph, how you doing? Great, Bob. How you doing? Great. If he doesn't phone me, then I phone him. Right? If
Mhm.
he doesn't come by, then I go over to him. Maybe something wrong with him. At least have one other person that can check in on you. And then if you don't respond, they come over. Right? That's the protocol. What happens if you can't get them on the phone? Well, you try 3 times over 3 hours, and if you still can't get them, then you go over to their house. You go over there and
Mhm.
give them a key to your front door. You got to trust somebody. So if they knock on the door and you're unconscious in the kitchen, they can let themselves in.
Mhm.
One other person, start that way. Then, if you can get 2 people, even better. And then 3 people, start small, baby steps, like you said. Um, because if you put an ad in the paper, we're starting a survivalist group, we're looking for 100 people to blah, 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 blah. Nobody's going to show up. Nobody's going to show up. I've already seen it. Won't happen. So you gotta build on it small, a little bit at a time, and also take advantage of existing groups. 2 minutes away from me, 2 minutes by bicycle, is the Canadian Legion. Right? Um, they got a big house there, kitchen, lots of room, and things like that. It would make a great shelter or retreat location, and they're all veterans. They've been in the military. They know how things go, how things work. So I could go and talk to them and ask them, listen, guys, can we talk about doing a volunteer search and rescue? We need to get some of the younger guys in here, but we'll train them, we'll supply them. And can we use this as a headquarters for our search and rescue? Can we use it as a headquarters for emergency response? Can we use this as an emergency hospital? Right? Where are you going to take all the casualties? If it was like a big natural disaster, local hospitals are filled up. Forget about it. If they're even open, if they're even functioning. So now you got a bunch of people that are sick and injured. Where are you going to take them? Well, can we go to the Canadian Legion? They got a big house there. Big house. It's a mansion. We could fit, 60 beds in there easy. So things like that. If you start with existing communities like Neighborhood Watch, um, the Canadian Legion, the American Legion. I don't know if Germany has the equivalent of that kind of organization. It's like a veterans organization. They usually sell beer. I used to always hang out at the American Legion in Taipei because it's all Americans and they're all veterans, usually Vietnam War veterans that never went back to the States. They stayed in Asia. They all hang out at the American Legion, but you know what? These are good people. They're okay. They might not believe everything I believe about, how the world works, this and that. Do I need them to do that? Does everybody have to think exactly the same?
No.
They don't. They don't. What you need is somebody first aid skills. Okay, welcome. Come on in. Gardening skills. We need you. Come back. Um, you know how to handle a firearm. Part of the team now.
Mm.
So that's how we start. So that's the best advice I can give you because I admit It's very hard and difficult because people don't work together anymore, Judith.
Yeah.
Our great grandparents know about this. They would have done this, no problem. You but we're all spoiled and selfish now after many years of prosperity. And so people don't even know how to work together. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to sacrifice 2 hours, or they don't understand it. So it's very difficult.
Yeah. Okay. So that was very inspiring. And I think it is not that hard and complicated. We just start small and build it up from there. And if we don't need it, then it has so many beneficial aspects that
Yeah, that's what I say too. Like, okay, so it's not the end of the world. I still like half price groceries.
yeah,
I still like having a bunch of friends because we do a lot of things too. We have potluck dinners and Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas dinner and barbecues, and everybody gets together. They bring their kids. The kids have a good time, and that's good. Even if it's not the end of the world, I like potluck dinners. You know, so there's always a benefit to it. There's more benefits than it's not a chore.